Hello everyone, in this video we'll be working on a fitness app using SwiftUI. Now in regards to the fitness app, we will be making a simple pedometer app which is going to keep track of our steps, and then later on in a different video I will show you that how you can even create an iOS 14 widget so that you can always look at the number of steps that you have taken right on your home screen. But the first part is, well, how do we calculate, how do we capture the steps? And there are multiple ways of doing that. You can use a CMPedometer class, which is going to allow you to capture the number of steps that you have taken. Now, CMPedometer is a great way to find the number of steps, but it will only work if we are using an iPhone, meaning it is not going to combine the steps if you were wearing a watch versus if you only were carrying an iPhone. The other way to do that, and the preferred way, which we will cover in a separate video, is ARKit. ARKit is going to allow you to capture the steps from your phone as well as your iPhone. So it will have more accurate reading because sometimes you're wearing your watch and sometimes you're carrying your iPhone. So it is going to combine both of them together, and it also has a lot of other features that we can utilize. But to just get started, we are going to be using CMPedometer, and in the later videos I will show you that how you can start using the ARKit to build your fitness applications. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have already created a very simple basic SwiftUI application. As you can see, we haven't even written any line of code. This all comes as a default. One thing to note about this app is that you will be running this app on an actual iPhone. So make sure that you have a physical iPhone and not the simulator, because we will be asking for the number of steps and they are in our iPhone and not part of the simulator. The first thing we need to do is we need to initialize the pedometer, which is in core motion. So let's go ahead and import core motion module. There we go. After importing the core motion module or framework, we can now go ahead and create an instance of the pedometer class. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to create a private instance. I will call it pedometer, which will be of type pedometer, and we will initialize it right over here as a pedometer. Great. Maybe I can even go ahead and put it as LED because I don't plan of assigning it again. Now we need to make sure that we are the pedometer is actually running, and the pedometer we have permission to query the data and all of the stuff related to the pedometer. One other thing that you will have to do in order for the pedometer to work is to give the permissions. So if you go to your info.plist file, you will find out that one permission that you have to grant is for the NSMotion usage description. So I'm going to go over here and add that particular key. And the value over here, I'm just going to say this app requires to access motion data. But this is completely custom. I mean, you can put anything you want over here. And this is the actual message that the person will see when they are running this app, and they have to give the permission so that we can access the pedometer data. Okay, so we're done with that. Now the next part that we want to do is we definitely want to print the number of steps. We want to also make sure that if the pedometer is available or not available. So all of those things we definitely want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all go into over here and going to create, this is fine, we're just displaying the number of basically the text over here, that's fine. Eventually we'll be displaying the count, but I want to initialize the pedometer when the view actually appears. So I'm going to say on appear, and over here I'm just going to say initialize pedometer. Great. Now we don't really have a function called Initialize Pedometer, so we have to create this function. So I'm just going to go over here and create this a private function. Let's go ahead and build this. Now inside the Initialize Pedometer, we have to check that if the pedometer is available, if the distance is available, if the pedometer step counting is available. So we need to check quite a bit of different things. So instead of polluting our Initialize Pedometer function, I'm just going to go ahead and create over here is pedometer available. And you can see that in this, that it's actually checking many different things, that if the pedometer is available or not available. So now we can go ahead and say if is pedometer available, and we can do something over here. Now another thing that we definitely need to check is that if the authorization status of the pedometer is authorized or not, because if it's not authorized, we won't be able to access any data from the pedometer. So let's go ahead and do that also. So now we can go ahead and say if is pedometer available, and we can do something over here. Now another thing that we definitely need to check is that if the authorization status of the pedometer is authorized or not, because if it's not authorized, we won't be able to access any data from the pedometer. So let's go ahead and do that also. Okay, so now our is pedometer available property is set, and we can go ahead and use it. If is pedometer available, then do what? Well, then we have to go ahead and get the old data from the pedometer. And by old, I mean 7 days old. I think it only goes till 7 days. So I can go ahead and ask my pedometer that, hey, give me some old data. Now we do need to supply from and to. So from should be 7 days ago, like a week ago. So let's go ahead and create our start date, which is from. And we're going to use calendar.current.date. And in the date, we can actually add a component. And in this case, since we want to go back 7 days, I'm just going to say by adding a day and -7, which indicates -7 days, a week ago, from the current date. Else, well, nothing but just return. The to date we have provided is the current date, which means that from today's date, go back 7 days and give me all the data, or give me a date, which in this case will be the start date. Now we have the start date, we can actually pass in as from, so start date. The to can be the today's date, and with handler means that it's going to get fired once we get something back from the pedometer.query pedometer data. The data will be optional, so we will have to unwrap it. So let's go ahead and do that. Data equals to data, and error equals to nil. Else, well, else we are not really going to do anything, so just going to return it. Great. Now this data contains something called number of steps, which are the number of steps from today and 7 days ago, meaning for a week. So whole week, what number of steps did we took? I do need to put this number of steps into some variable, so I've already created a state variable over here, which is called steps, and it is int of optional. Because sometimes we will have steps and sometimes we don't. So I'm going to go ahead and say steps equals to data dot number of steps. Okay, now number of steps is ns number, so we do have to say int value to get the actual integer steps. Since this is a state variable, as soon as you set the steps, it is going to fire the render again, meaning refresh the body again. And at that time, what we want to do is we want to display the number of steps. So instead of displaying the text and hello world, I do want to show the number of steps. Now if I try to do something like this, I can do it something like this, steps, but steps itself, as you can see, it is optional, so I do have to unwrap this. So I'm going to say over here, if the steps is not equal to nil, then go ahead and display the steps. And now over here, I can definitely unwrap it successfully. And in the else case, I can go ahead and say, in the else case, well, don't really do anything. Let's go ahead and build this. Now, once again, in order to run this application, make sure that you are running it on an actual real device. If you're not running it on the real device, then obviously it's going to just return 0. Because on the pedometer, which is on the simulator, you may not be able to get any steps back. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm already connected to my real device and see that if we can get any steps to be displayed. So the first thing you will see is that it's asking that am I going to give the permission to access the motion data? I'm just going to say yes, and it displays the steps, which is 5,077. Now this is for the whole week. These are obviously not many steps in the whole week. Keeping in mind that this is only for when I have iPhone and I am basically running or walking with the iPhone in my pocket, not the Apple Watch. So 5,000 steps still, from that point, it is actually very low. Okay, so we get the steps to be displayed. The next step would be to display the distance. It would be nice if we can somehow display the distance, right? But the good news is that data.distance is going to give you the distance. And it is going to give you the distance in meters. In order to set this, I will go ahead and create another property, which will be a state property, private var distance. And the distance might be in meters, so I'm going to go ahead and create it in meters, and I'm just going to make them a double, because sometimes the distance can be obviously 1.5, 1.7, and things like that, right? Now let's go back and unwrap the distance. So I can go over here and I can say over here guard let pedometer distance equals to, and in this case we can even unwrap it in a different way if you want. We can check it out. So we can say over here distance, which is a double, and we can say data dot, and we can just say current distance, which is the distance, dot double value. So we can kind of do it like this if you want, or you can even unwrap it in a different way if you want to. So this is going to give us the distance, and since this is a double property which is optional, we can go ahead and display it. So I'm going to use the same exact technique over here and see if we can actually display it. So if the distance is not nil, then go ahead and say distance, and I will go ahead and say meters. And this will be number of steps. Let's go ahead and run this and see that if we are able to display the distance or not. Okay, 3,000 or something meters. That's a lot of meters. And I'm in US, so we use miles. So it will be nice if we can display miles instead of meters. Now I can go ahead and do the calculation myself in order to convert between meters and to miles, but we can also make use of the measurement API that was introduced in iOS some time back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a separate function, and I will call it update UI, which is going to take in the data, and I will simply pass in the CMPedometer data. So this means that after we have got the data, I can simply just call that particular function. So update and then passing in the data. Inside this update UI, first of all, I'm just going to go ahead and assign the steps, which is number of steps dot int value. That's fine. But the second thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we are passing in the correct distance. Now the distance we already have formed that is nullable, so I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this. Once I have unwrapped this, I can go ahead and say distance in meters equals to the measurement API. So I'm going to go ahead and use the measurement API. I'm going to go ahead and pass a value, which in this case is pedometer distance, and the unit length. So unit length dot, and what is the unit length that we currently have? So the unit length that we currently have is meters. Great. And the distance that we actually want, let's go ahead and do that. The distance that we actually want is distance equals to distance in meters dot converted to, let's first make sure that y is not coming up. Let's go ahead and build this. I'm sure I'm making some mistake over here. Okay, there we go. So we had to convert it to double. Distance equals to distance in meters dot converted to which miles dot value. Great, right? So you can always use the measurement APIs to convert back and forth from different things, and that's the good part of using this. Okay, not sure what it's complaining about. Okay, and now we should be able to go ahead and display the distance. The other thing that we actually can do over here, I think instead of all of this, maybe we can just say pedometer distance dot double value instead of writing all of that stuff. The remaining part should be the same. Now we can go ahead and run the app again and see that if it actually displays a distance or not. Okay, 1.93, well, miles, so we should definitely fix that part to say miles. There we go. The other thing that you noted might be that it is displaying a lot of different 1.938610. I don't really care about that much. 1.93 should be more than enough for me. So how can we fix that part? This means that we have to go over here, and this part needs to be fixed. This part, right? So let's see how we can fix it. I'm just going to say string and format. The value that we want to inject will be distance unwrapped, and I believe we will have to say it like this, which means that we are formatting it and we are only picking up 2 characters, 2 digits after the dot. Now let's go ahead and run this again and see that if we are able to get it correct or not. And now you can see that it is displaying the number of steps, and it is also displaying 1.94 miles, which is correct, which is fine because I don't really want to display it that long. So in this video, you have learned how you can use the CMPedometer to get the data for the past 7 days and to display it on the screen. You also learned that how you can use the measurement API to convert between meters and miles. But the measurement API can also be used in Fahrenheit and centimeters, meters, Celsius, Kelvin, and a lot of other measurements. It's actually really, really strong API. In the next videos, in the future videos, we will learn that how we can create widgets so that we have this data, the pedometer data, always visible on our homepage, and we don't even have to open the app. If you like this video and want to support my channel, then the best way would be to check out my courses on Udemy. I have a brand new course which is SwiftUI Declarative Interfaces for any Apple device. this is the most comprehensive course available on Udemy, you can actually see that this is around 17.5 hours, the longest course and the most comprehensive complete course on SwiftUI anywhere. You can see that we start with creating and combining views, building list and navigation. Then we even dive into the MVVM design pattern, learning how to use MVVM design pattern to create our next SwiftUI applications. I'm also covering the core data integration and also Swift recipes, which includes building a rating view, downloading images, and now I'm also covering all the Swift 2.0 changes. You can see there are a lot of changes coming up. We're already over an hour of changes, and I keep on adding new things. The best way to get this course is check out the description of YouTube. And in the YouTube description, you will not only find a link to the SwiftUI course, but you will also find many different links for all of my courses. And I would really appreciate if you want to show the support, then check out my other courses. I just released another course on Vapor 4, which allows you to write Swift applications or APIs using Swift on the server and on the cloud, which is an amazing course. So definitely check that out. I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for your continuous support.